I listened to a little bit of the podcast you've done with Ryan Munsey, and Ryan, very smart guy, he's been on this podcast. He's actually my mentor now for my nutrition. I love the guy.
Oh, awesome.
He said, you're the world's #1 high-pressure performance coach.
Yeah.
What's a high-pressure performance coach?
High-pressure performance is, for example, someone who...
And how are you the #1 in the world?
Because I work with a lot of people, man.
Yeah.
And that was Ryan. Ryan said that, but it's like...
I love it. I love it.
But high pressure meaning if you have to consistently perform at the highest level day after day after day after day, when the pressure's on, that's when my stuff works the best. When you have to perform. So that's high pressure sales. That could be, it could be a fighter or an athlete. It could be whatever. But when that intense is pressure and you must perform day after day after day after day after day after day, that's hard.
The president. It's like the president. Imagine having to deal with that stuff on a daily basis.
How fast did Obama go grey?
Yeah.
It's like a week.
It's incredible. Right?
He also said you're the master at actionable strategies. What's that? Masterable strategies?
Actionable strategies, meaning we're looking at... Ryan says some good stuff, mate.
Oh, he's picking you right up.
You like Ryan. Actionable strategies, meaning that... Like, I've been a little bit airy-fairy today, but it really was a little bit technical, right? So I have to create it's simple. So actionable strategies, meaning if somebody has to achieve this, then what we do is we look at that goal and we reverse engineer it.
Right. Working backwards, yeah.
Yeah, so once we know where they're going, we reverse engineer how they're going to get there, and then I start to formulate systems around to make sure they maintain that peak performance all the way.
To stay the course.
To achieve their goal.
To achieve that goal, yeah. And so the goal could be 5 years out. Well, to me, that's not a goal. That's a vision, right? That could way change.
Right.
12 months. Do you know what you're going to be doing in 12 months? I have an idea.
Yeah.
But not really.
Right.
You know? So we have to break that down. That's a vision. Then we break it down into 3 months. From the 3 months, we break it down into a month to 2 weeks, 2 weeks to a day to a task. You know?
Yeah.
So then it's simple. Because otherwise people get overwhelmed. People don't stay motivated.
Yeah.
So if we can bring it down to simplicity, which I probably should have done at the start of the fucking podcast, mate. But it's... then you stay motivated. You stay driven because something Ryan was talking about is, was maybe even you. He was talking about it was like an 8-year
he mentioned that.
program.
Yeah.
That was you then, man. That's even more awesome. But I was explaining in that podcast, he was like, how did he stay motivated for 8 years? He's on an 8-year program.
He said the average marriage is 8 years as well.
That's interesting. And I was like, well, if the goal was so exciting to him that he was driven by it. But guess what? Every training session you took as an individual training session.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I've got the Olympics in 8 years' time. It was like I'm fighting in a tournament in 2 months' time against this.
There you go.
So it was the smaller goals that led to the big goal, right?
And that's what I was talking about before, you know, with the steps.
Yes,
that's the thing.
So
you to get to the Olympics, well, guess what? You had to go through each training camp. So each training camp had each individual session. Each individual session, you had to perform at your best in.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like when you're in a tournament like the Olympics, you know that. Oh, if I get to the semi-finals, I'm fighting this monster, right? But you've got to fight 2 fights to get there. Yes. If you're thinking about fighting that monster, you're going to forget about what's in front of you and stumble up. So you've got to concentrate on the small steps before you get to the
absolutely.
The big steps.
Yeah. And something you brought up before, which was awesome, was talking about flow.
Yeah.
And let's talk about that for a second, because what people don't understand is that I was talking about states. Welcome to LA, right? Always planes and helicopters. Talking about states, that version of you, yes, it's thinking, feeling, and acting a certain way, but you have to always perform uniquely. So let's talk about flow, because let's talk about baseball. We're in America, right? Baseball player hitting a 100-mile-an-hour ball. Well, guess what? You can't do that consciously.
Yeah.
You can't. It's too fast. So let me explain this. So when you're in that state, or you put the hat on and you're going into to train, right? That has a certain neural net for sure. It has a certain version of you, but you've built that software, so it's automatic. So you don't need to think, I need to put my hip position here, throw a hook like this. You don't need to do that. It's automatic. But when do you get in your own way?
Is
in a
that
fight?
unconscious?
Yes.
Right, yeah.
That's, exactly.
Muscle memory in a sense.
That muscle memory,
Yeah.
So when you're in there, if you start thinking about what you're going to do too much, I've got to hit him there, guess what? You're taken out of that flow.
Yeah.
You start to, and that's where things go wrong.
You also become predictable, I think.
Well, yeah, you start to overthink it. You start to go off that automatic software that you've been installing, doing reps after rep after rep after rep, right? So what this means, it's like a golf player hitting a hole-in-one. Well, they can't hit a hole-in-one because they can't see the hole. But what they do is they visualize, right, the hole being hit. It's the same with a baseball player. Time perception. They can change it. Same with a fighter. The reason why a fighter in a fight can take so much punishment, because really, you're in trance.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You're in hypnosis. You're in trance. You're
Makes
in a
sense.
different, unaltered brainwave frequency. And that's flow.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, good.
I love it. I love it. It's kind of like I've been in fights where I've been hit, concussed, brains rattled around my skull. I don't know what the fuck's happening. I don't know but I fight on instinct.
Yes.
And you end up winning the fight, and you can't even remember what happened.
And that's the instinct.
That's the
It's
instinct.
flow state, because you built the mind muscle, the software is so deep
Yeah.
that it just plays, right?
Yeah. You don't believe in procrastination.
Nah.
So Munzi says. No, it's not like
It's Munzi again,
yeah,
man.
Munzi again. No, that's what he said now. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I do. I don't believe it. What I believe is misalignment. If yours, it's like, okay, like with you, with going to the Olympics, right? Now, you got there. So were you procrastinating along the way? Well, maybe certain sessions,
Right.
weren't as good as the other, but really, you're in alignment with where you're going. If you're going to, I'm going to use a real UK thing, a chicken factory, right? It's where we grew up, places like that. If you're going to work each day and you're going to somewhere you don't like, then you're not going to be motivated. You don't
Right.
want to go. You're going to procrastinate like hell, right? But if you're into driving towards something, then to me, yes, we have to maintain you on the way. We have to fine tune you like a race car, but you're just doing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love that. What sort of stuff do you do now for your own mind, for your training your own mind? I know you've got the mastermind group you're in with Ben Greenfield and Ryan.
Yeah, absolutely. Really, I'm my own student. I really am. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, I'm trying to dial this in and get better. I put myself around the right people. To be around the right people, I just flew to LA, and San Diego, just to be for a week, just to be around the right people, right? Just to get inspired, hey, I didn't even know I was meeting you, mate, so that's even more awesome. But I put myself around the right people. I definitely go into masterminds, but every day I have very, very specific routines. Like for me to step in even into this, before I was prepping my brain. I don't just do this.
Yeah.
I don't just see a client. I don't just do that. I set myself up so I know the outcome. It's visual. I feel good. I'm on point, which means I can come and talk to you. And probably went a bit too fast at the start, right?
No,
but yeah. So every day I'm really working on building this. It's like learning any new skill.
Right.
There's that learning curve, right?
Sure.
It takes time. But Michael Gladwell talks about the 10,000 hours to mastery.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Outliers, right? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, different studies have shown it actually takes more than 10,000 hours, right? But at the end of the day, that 10,000 hours can take you how long or how short?
Right.
Just depends how many reps you want to do and how fast you want to
What do you mean?
learn.
How long? How short?
Meaning you could do 10,000 hours to get mastery and it could take you 10 years. You could do the same 10,000 hours and you could do it like for 18 hours a day. You're going to get that level of performance, or the muscle's going to get thicker faster.
Yeah.
That's what, to me, that's what we want to do. So it's when we can tune everything, when we can treat like the next goal as like a boot camp towards it, then we're going to get there faster, man.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
It's similar. I mean, for us, and we always tell our trainers, like, if you want to be a great trainer, you need to go and do all these things yourself and experience it and understand it from that side of things before you can coach it and coach it well. Because if you don't, then how are you going to ask someone to do a squat if you've never done a squat in your life? Or how are you going to ask someone to lose 10 pounds if you've never had to cut weight in your life?
I couldn't agree more, man. And that's why the personal development industry, I said this on Ryan's podcast, the personal development industry drives me fucking crazy. Didn't know we could swear, but I swore. That's good, mate. So it drives me crazy because it's so cheesy. It's so cheesy. it's outdated the way they communicate and talk about it, and it just annoys me. And people overcharge for their experience, man. I've done this for 15 years all over the world. I've worked with Saudi Arabian royalty. I've worked with people who run $200-300 million businesses. I work with special force commandos, abuse victims, people, everyone else you can possibly imagine. So if someone comes to me, I know what to do, right? Well, that's wisdom. That's why you can charge a certain thing, because you can handle anything that person comes to you, whether it's sales, it's Forex trading, doing an IPO. It's the same stuff to me, man.
Yeah. So I've seen that you do, it's NLP, right? Yeah. NLP in sales.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that. Is there anything you can give our listeners, a lot of them's in the fitness industry, right. That they can go out today and use to help their sales let's see if they're selling personal training or whatever?
Totally. Well, that's where I learned NLP, was in Sydney in Australia. And I was very lucky that I got trained by the top guys in the world. So I was very, very lucky. But one of the key things that got shown to me very, very early on, nice, simple, very, very simple. Let's keep it simple today, right? Is there's a couple of default settings in the brain, and the biggest default setting in the brain is to keep you safe.
Right.
That's the amygdala's kicking in. It's the fight or flight response. It's always designed to keep you safe.
Survival of the fittest.
You got it. It is. Yeah, exactly. But there's also a freeze response. That's what people don't talk about. They flight, meaning they're distracting themselves with shiny object syndrome or whatever. And then there's also a freeze response, where there's too much information, they can't handle it, and a deer in the headlights, right? So for a start, why? It's because the unconscious mind doesn't know what's on the outside of this box. So it's like, this is my analogy, it's like going back to the caves, depending on what your belief is, but it's like going back to the caves. What's on the outside of this cave? Oh, some awesome stuff, some amazing stuff. Oof, some scary stuff. I don't know how to get there. Let's just be safe and stay where we are, right? So in sales, what happens is they start focusing on the unknown outcome. So what does that kick in? The amygdala, the flight. It kicks in the nervous system to make them fearful, right? But if we can just understand that the unconscious mind only wants to know one thing: what's the outcome?
Yeah.
That's all it cares about, right? So if we can make that image big, bright, close to us, inside of us, and we can tweak all these things. They're called submodalities in NLP, but whatever. But if we can make this image big and bright and we're inside it and we get our nervous system used to feeling this end step, then guess what? You walk into that sale feeling a different way, believing a different way, the attitude, and even the tonality, the pace, the pitch, the timbre of your voice is different. Everything's different.